What is this podcast called? The final call out.
Woo!
Fitness. The
Yes.
final call out. Okay, let's introduce ourselves. You go
Okay.
first.
Okay. I am Allison Kramer. I'm a four-time pro fitness champion, and I am preparing for my fourth Olympia.
Oh my gosh, four times. Let's
I
go.
know. Crazy.
I am Andrea Glass, and I'm a three-time fitness champion preparing for my second Olympia. So we're doing this podcast because we don't think fitness gets enough coverage. And we feel like, if we're trying to grow our division, one major thing is just understanding of the division and coverage and visibility of the division. And, so many other divisions have different podcasts and different, resources that review every single show and talk about competitors and just, again, get information out for their divisions. And we don't really have that. So we decided, you know what? We talk about this a lot to each other. Let's let's bring it out to the public just so again we can get more eyes, more education, more visibility on our brand. Our
Yeah.
brand. Listen
Our
to me. I'm
division.
a
But I
marketing
think
girl.
too, just as a little caveat, like these are just like our opinions from competing in the division, what we see. Some of these shows you competed in, I was just a consumer of, the
Mhm.
product and watching the shows. But obviously, having competed in the division for a long time, sometimes we're trying to interpret what the judges saw
Mhm.
versus what was rewarded and vice versa. This is just, going to be our opinions on how things ran and maybe why certain things were rewarded in front of certain judges versus us saying this is right or
This is
wrong,
what I
this should
think.
have happened,
Mhm.
shouldn't have happened.
Yes. Hard agree. Okay, we can talk about Emerald. I mean, I don't really think there's a lot to say about Emerald, but I mean,
You were there?
we can talk about Emerald. I was there, Emerald Cup champion. So that was the first natural show of the year. So that's a Ben Weeder qualifier. That's new this year is to qualify for Ben Weeder. You can't just sign up. So it was just me and Amanda Ciani. She turned pro a long time ago, maybe, well, 2021, I think,
Yeah,
was when
because
she turned pro
she did her pro debut. That was my first Arnold in
at the Arnold.
2022.
Yes. So, and
So,
that's the last time she competed. She's been
yeah,
in school. She's becoming
for
like a
like
doctor or something.
PhD or something.
Yeah, I think she just
Yeah.
graduated or something. That's
So I
crazy.
think too, just so for people who don't know, like Ben Weeder, previous years, you could just enter. It was a regular like Olympia qualifier. So you would just enter Ben Weeder. If you won or were in that top two or three, they tested you or polygraphed you, and then the
Mhm.
winner still qualified for the Olympia. The winner of Ben Weeder still does qualify for the Olympia, but now there is a prerequisite of winning another natural show in order to go to Ben Weeder.
Yeah, so Ben Weeder's going to be a lot smaller this year. But yeah, so we do a polygraph. Every competitor does a polygraph now. And then I think, yeah, top two get your analysis. The polygraph is scary. I don't
I've
know.
never done polygraph.
I'm like, am I gonna fail because I'm nervous? They're like, no, you're not. So anyway,
But
so
I
that
would
was
think it's
me. Yeah,
interesting too. Like, I was hoping that maybe they would go back and make it like previous top five from last year, maybe
yeah,
previous winners, just because even across the
yeah,
division, there's only going to be two shows or two or three natural shows
yeah.
for the Ben Weeder. And just if you want a decent pool of people who are going
Mhm.
to compete to also go to the Olympia, like you want a show that has more than four competitors.
You're right, exactly. I was hoping, Becca Sizemore had mentioned that she was pressing the IFBB to let it be open again. At the very minimum, someone had mentioned maybe like applications like the Arnold. I think that would
Yeah.
be a good place to start, at least for the first year when there's literally only three qualifiers for it. So there's three qualifiers and last year's winner. Um,
Or even just like have
so
participated in another natural show.
yes, exactly.
I mean, that's not going to get a huge increase, but either participation in a natural show or, previous top five from last year,
Mhm.
previous winners. Like, I think that's a good way to still get people who have had a prerequisite to make it to the show
Yes.
without it just being open to everyone. But yeah, that'll happen. Is it November this year for the Ben Weeder?
Yes, November 20 something, whatever that weekend is. But yeah, I mean, Ben Weeder Naturals is always one of our bigger fitness shows. So the fact that it's only going to be four people when it's like consistently 8 to 12 is like, wah, wah. But it
Yeah.
is what it is. Okay, so that was me and Amanda. I won both rounds. She hasn't competed in a while, and she had actually mentioned that she's like, I was not ready physique wise, but I just needed to get on stage. I
Yeah.
think I would have stayed off stage even longer if I didn't. And she lives locally. So her conditioning just wasn't what it needed to be. Obviously, I just competed at the Arnold and I was 4 weeks out from Legion at the time. So my conditioning was, significantly better than hers. Honestly, her routine was really good. I did not think, I was like, I might lose this show. um, she did like a superhero. It wasn't a superhero. I forget exactly what the theme was, but it was really good. She has a lot she, I think, has the goods to who does she remind me of? I don't know how to say this without offending anybody, so I'm not going to say any names, plus I can't think of any. She has an incredible performance, like she's great at performing. Her skills aren't necessarily the highest level difficulty,
Mhm.
but she executes very well and she's a very theatrical, like entertaining type performer.
Okay.
Um, and what I loved about her performance is that you can't tell where she came from, right? You can tell who the cheerleaders are, you can tell who the gymnasts are, you can tell who the dancers are. I can't really put my finger on where I think she came from, which I think is great for fitness. Like
Yeah.
it's just a fitness routine and she's really good at everything. So she was really good, but I ended up winning that show. I had a great performance, a couple little bobbles, but it's the same routine that I did at the Arnold and it's been ranking well. So obviously I stuck with it. And I ended up winning that one. So that was exciting. Especially,
Yeah.
that was 2 weeks out from Legion. And I feel like that helped me do well for Legion, which is coming up
Yes.
next on our review.
So, yeah. So Emerald, that was 4 weeks. It was May 3rd. It was on my birthday. So I
Oh yeah, I
remember
was like
when it
texting you. I
was.
was like, oh yeah, happy birthday.
Um,
Sorry.
I was like, I'm not even going to tell her because
I was
I
like,
get
oh, is
so
it your
giddy.
birthday? Sorry. Anyway, about my bodybuilding show.
And then Legion, that was a show near and dear to my heart. I was the
Oh yeah.
2024 Legion Sports Fest Fitness
Champion.
Champion. I love that show. Chris Minutes puts on a great production. I think it's cool just to have the expo. It's like, a
Hmm.
little bit more than just a normal bodybuilding show. I don't love the elevation in Reno or like the casino vibe,
Hmm.
but it's still like, I think obviously aside from winning last year, it was still like one of my favorite shows, like
Yeah,
production wise.
I
They put
agree.
on a really good production. I think we had, was it 9 girls?
9. Yes.
Okay. I was thinking maybe let's just like kind of go over prejudge,
Okay.
highlight through like routine round, and then cover top five synopsis.
Okay.
So
Great.
from a consumer perspective, I know there's been a little bit of drama
Drama.
around the scorecards and how things can certain happen. So when I was watching prejudging, I think my initial reaction was I was a little surprised that Courtney's physique wasn't ranked a little bit higher, just seeing how big and hard she is. In that lineup, I would say there wasn't necessarily like the ideal fitness physique. Everyone was like, so different. Everyone looked very
Hmm.
different. There was no like one person who's like, this is the
This is the
criteria.
look. Hmm.
But everyone was bringing something, a good package, a little bit different, obviously, just, shapes, conditioning. So knowing what I know about what's rewarded at bigger shows, I think that was more of a surprise, knowing what the criteria for the division is. But when I look at who is judging on that panel, it is not a surprise because certain judges prefer shape. The things that we're being judged on, shape, condition, symmetry, size.
Hmm.
How those are prioritized among different judges or what their preference is isn't always going to be the same. And then as far as like I would have liked to have seen because first call out was Amber, Anya, Kristen, and then Danielle, and then they
You
had
choose. Hmm.
the second call out. I would have liked to see that middle 3, 4, 5 compared. Because when I was also watching in second call out, I would say your physique didn't fit with the girls
Hmm.
that were Nevaeh, Courtney, Ann
Abby.
Louise, and Abby. So there
Hmm.
was a little bit of a discrepancy, and I just think if they would have pulled those three out, it would have been a lot easier from a consumer standpoint to like put your finger
Hmm.
on who goes where. Uh,
Yeah.
Personally, I would have had in that 3, 4 range you and Kristen.
Hmm.
Just from my personal physique preferences when it comes to shape, size, condition,
Right.
posing, presentation. That's what I would have had. I think Tarek usually goes a little bit more for shape, and he had specifically told you that
Hmm.
Danielle was rewarded for her back detail.
Hmm.
But that's just that would have been my preference to see. Like I wish I could have just seen the three of you standing next to each other because I
Next
think
to each other.
it
I
just would
agree.
have made it more, I don't want to say palatable, but like for you as a competitor, it would have probably put you at ease to not think, oh, I'm so far back, or vice
Right.
versa. When someone thinks they're ahead, they're in a first call
Hmm.
out, and then they end up kind of being in that fifth spot, it's a lot easier to understand the mindset. And I think just from,
Yeah.
when people watch bodybuilding, it also would make more sense to people who
Hmm.
don't know that really, Sandy says it all the time, where you stand on stage doesn't mean anything.
Becky
So I know it's
also says
hard
it.
to be like,
Hmm.
if you were in the first call out and you're splitting center and you're not one or two, you're like kind of like WTF. Like I was
Yeah.
splitting center, like I should be top
Yeah.
two. But Sandy says it all the time. It means nothing. Like
Yeah.
there's where they place you on stage is to compare you to other people.
Hmm.
So I know it's like for me, like if I was Kristen, I would probably still have a little like I would be like, I don't understand type of
Hmm.
thing. But I think when you zoom out and when you really know where you stand on stage doesn't mean anything,
Hmm.
you have to just understand like it's the judge's preference and they don't always necessarily need to see one and two or three and four standing next to each
Next
other
to
to
each
have
other.
a preference.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, as a competitor, I mean, I was saying, if anybody watches my show day wrap up, the whole time I was like, man, I just want them to put me next to these girls so that they can see, like, I know I can fight my way up, right? Like that happens all the time where you're like, just get in that comparison, just get next to them and you can fight your way up. And like you said, sometimes they don't need to see you next to each other. But I know for myself, I was like, please put me next to them. Please put me next to them. Please put me next to them. But again, I mean, my genetic shape, I think was enough. I think our conditioning was close enough. I kind of agree with you. I personally would have put me three, Kristen four, Danielle five, just because I feel like I mean, Kristen, I think has the best size out of all, like biggest out of all of us, but me and Danielle have conditioning on her. And then I have, me and Danielle have shape, but obviously I'm always going to be biased towards myself. But I did think that from the front, Kristen was just as impressive as Danielle, but
Yeah.
then she was just bigger.
And
So,
obviously like I'm just looking from like a live stream perspective, but like
right.
I think of like the look Danielle brought to Van last year and like if that had
Hmm.
been the look,
That
it would have been a completely different conversation.
hard agree, hard agree. And that's the
Um,
hard thing
but it's a
is,
pay-per-view, so I always am trying to say like
yeah,
this is just what I see on a
yeah.
virtual screen. It's not what is actual reality in person, live time in front of
Well,
judges.
and the hard thing for us, I think, maybe for judges, but I think judges are, maybe they don't deal with this as much. But I think also for us, we also have that little bias of comparing ourselves and each other to our own recent looks.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So it's like, well, I mean, this happens to my husband all the time in men's physique. They're like, well, that wasn't your best. And it's like, yeah, maybe it wasn't my best, but you can't tell me it still wasn't better than somebody else. Right. And it's the same thing. It's like, I see Danielle and I'm like, I don't know, I think your van look was better. So maybe I secretly have this subconsciously have this bias where I'm like, I've seen you better. So in my opinion, I should have ranked higher, but maybe if I had a completely neutral look of it. But again, like you said, it's really just preferences. My direct feedback from Tarek was you need more detail in your back.
Mhm.
So based on that very specific feedback, it makes sense to me why Danielle would have ranked higher. But we had Adela the next weekend, and there were people like Sammy, brand new baby girl, who definitely had more detail in her back than me. Sammy, what you doing for that back? And I beat her,
Yeah.
right?
And I
So it's
think
like,
it's
so it just depends on the preference of
yeah.
the judge, like things like that. There's always going to be like whatever, however many criteria, the judges can decide which of those criteria mean more to them. If it's splitting hairs, which I think that me, Danielle, and Kristen were all close enough.
Yeah, because
Um,
it's like out of the
that
criteria, you guys all had some of them.
something.
You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Yeah.
There may be, you're not as big as Kristen, and then you have a little bit
Right.
more shape than Kristen. Like it becomes
Right.
a
Yeah.
either or situation. You're not comparing two people who are genetically the same,
Exactly
same
the
size
same.
and shape,
Yeah.
and then someone has a little more conditioning and maybe someone's a little more full.
Right.
It
Yeah.
very, very much becomes apples and oranges.
Oh yeah. Routine wise, routines were good.
Routines
I
were
think the
very good. I
routines
was
this
pleasantly
year are
surprised.
getting good.
It was refreshing, I think, especially just seeing some girls come back that haven't maybe
Hmm.
competed in a while.
Yeah.
Like maybe there was a little bit of, ring rust during,
Hmm.
something along those
Yeah.
lines. I did really enjoy most of the routines, and then I just saw,
Hmm.
a lot of potential in some routines. There was
Yes.
no one that got on stage that I was just like,
No
there's
complete
no
dud.
potential here. There's no meat potatoes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Abby was first, and she hadn't competed in a
Hmm.
while. I think it was a little bit different
Yeah.
style for her. Um, I have not yet seen, I know she changed her routine for Adela, so I haven't yet seen that one.
Hmm.
But from the routine that I saw, like she has a lot of really good skills, but
Skills.
she's
Yes.
someone, there's a few girls that I'll mention this, probably same comment, that I would actually love to see them just slow down and perform their
Hmm.
skills they're kind of moving really fast from skill to skill, that there is
Hmm.
no dramatic pause or build up to specific
Yes.
skills, that it's almost like when you're just high energy and there's like not that build up, it's almost like
Yeah.
your really hard skills fall flat because
Off.
there was
Yes.
no like
There's no
build
punch.
up, and then just a little bit more of the intentional like pauses after certain things and
Moments.
head looks and those
Yes.
those type of things that even for me took a long time
Yeah.
to get. So that's not just specific for Abby. I think it's
Right.
a great
Well,
routine and had a lot of
yeah.
difficulty, but I would have loved to see just a little bit slower and a little more build up.
Yeah. And that's feedback that I got from Tyler at Ben Weeder. He said the same exact thing to me. Like, slow down. We're missing moments. We're missing things because you're just like,
Yes.
go, 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 go. And then Sandy didn't say it exactly at the Arnold, but she said, I feel like we missed a lot of things. So she didn't say slow down specifically, but that was 2 shows in a row that I got feedback. Hey, we're missing things that you're doing. So that's probably going to be applied across the board. I think a lot of us feel like you have to fit another skill. You have to fit another skill, especially if you're have Olympia dreams and you are looking at this top 5 at the Olympia and you're watching these routines. You're like, I got to do this skill. I got to do that skill. I got to do it. Like, we don't have to put our entire repertoire always in a routine. You the
Yes,
moments.
you have to pick and
The
choose your best
moments
skills.
matter. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I just did my choreography a few weeks ago, and like there's things that I wanted to do that are not in the routine because the
Hmm.
performance matters.
Yes.
Um, Danielle did a different style.
Hmm.
I think it was a lot cleaner than I've seen her do. I know she is
Yeah.
working on some stuff, going up into Alabama as well.
Hmm.
I think she had a good range. It wasn't all of the same type of skills. Like she was
Hmm.
trying to do some, show some growth and some variety. Um, I think when I was just watching her routine, there was just certain skills that seemed rushed, not the whole
Yeah.
performance. Like there was good momentum, there was a good tempo, but just here and there were certain skills that didn't get the full effect. Um,
Yes.
but I really enjoyed seeing her like step into a different element. And it's like, I think in the past, she's done very cheerleader style.
Cheerleader.
I really enjoyed seeing her do something a little more intense and like she really got
Hmm.
into like the performative side, which I've never seen from her. So I think it just showed like a really good range.
Yeah. It reminded me of the routine she did the year you won Chattanooga and she got second.
Oh, she did
Like
like a
that. It was
lion,
like a
like
jungle. Yeah. Like a
yes, yes,
lion.
yes.
Like, it kind of reminded me of that, which I feel like, I mean, that was a good year for her. I think she
Yeah.
got second to you. And then like that following Legion, she won. So, I mean, I agree. I think it's a good direction for her. Um, I feel like, yeah, there were some parts that were like, we were losing it. We're like, okay, we're losing the connection, we're losing the intentionality, we're losing like the execution. But I definitely think coming into Alabama, I know she's worked on some of those things, so I'm excited to see the revamped version of the same routine.
Yeah. I mean,
I think
I,
she's
I
gonna
think,
do really good.
yeah. And I definitely think it's like a really, really good direction.
Yeah, I agree.
Especially just where she's at physique wise too. Like
Hmm.
she has everything she needs to do to pull off another win. It's just, pulling it all together. And
Yeah.
um, I'm excited to see where that kind of goes. Who is third?
Third, Anya. Anna.
Oh,
I asked her, I said, is it Anya or Anna? She's like, oh, either one. She's so nice. She doesn't care. It's like her English name is Anna, but her
yeah.
Russian name is Anya. I was like, well, your Instagram says Anya, but your bodybuilding says Anna. Fomina is what we'll call her.
Anya. If I could just like it's
I
crazy
need
because like
such
I say this like I don't think I say this about a lot of people, but I see a lot of myself in Anya
Hmm.
in the sense
Hmm.
of very, very different styles, very different shapes, but just the momentum. And she's someone
Hmm.
who's just kind of continued to show up and get better show to show. She didn't necessarily come out of the gate like with a strong pro debut.
Firing. Hmm.
She has just consistently improved. And then I think last year she took some time off and her physique has dramatically changed. She's learned to do a
100%.
back handspring. Like her style is very different than mine. Theatrical, like, isn't my realm of like, I enjoy to watch
Hmm.
it, but I could never do it. But she has very different, a lot of flexibility skills. So
Hmm.
that theatrical style is going to go really well in front of some judges, and it's not going to do so well in front
Hmm.
of other judges. But the way she performs it, it's just, she works Oksana on routine and like
Yeah.
they do some great choreography for her skill set that is very different. It's like, to me, it's a good mix.
Yeah.
Like your
Hmm.
style, but still incorporating the fitness stuff. She did a little bit more of a theme this year, which I liked for her just
Hmm.
to be a little more intense versus
Intense.
just,
Yeah.
when you have that
I feel
theatrical
like before it
style.
was almost like ballet
Yes, yes,
style,
yes.
and now it's
So
like,
I really enjoyed watching her at Legion. She got second and then she got third at Adela. But I would say just like when if you could like bottle growth in a year and like give a
Yeah,
award for someone, like it would be to Anya.
I 100% agree. I mean, at Titans last year, that was 7 months ago. She got sixth or seventh, like second to last or last at Titans, and then she got injured and couldn't do Legion. And
Yeah.
now this is her first time back on stage and came out
So
firing.
winning. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Um,
I'm excited for that because I know we've talked a little bit like, wow, she's given future Oksana. And one thing that I feel like she was missing before, I feel like the word I've used is command. It's like, yeah, it's good, but it's not like powerful. And I feel
yeah.
like this year she got on stage, not just with a good routine, but almost with an attitude of like, watch this. This
Yes.
is good. Like believing that this is good and making everybody else see like this is a good routine. I'm not just performing and having fun, which of course we all want to have fun, right? But I felt like she had a level of command this year that was like, oh, okay, like
Yeah.
that was
Just
it's like
very
you get
intentional,
a
like the
feeling from
confidence.
watching it. Yes, you get a feeling from watching it. You're not just like entertained. You're like,
Yes, yes, yes.
okay, that I like that. You feel it.
Yeah.
Who was after that? Me? Was I after Anya?
Or
No, Nevaeh. Nevaeh. I'm not gonna lie, I was surprised to see her in the top five.
I
Her
was as
skills,
well.
her skills are off the charts.
Yes.
She has an unbelievable amount of raw talent. For me personally, I think the routine composition didn't feel all the stuff we've been
Cohesive.
saying about Anya, intentional. Like it didn't feel like that to me. It felt like a collection of skills to music, and it was fun, and it was great. Like I was like, oh, that was pretty fun. That was pretty cool. But it didn't feel like, again, I think the way that we're talking about all the rest of these routines, where we're like, that was intentional, and that was, like you said, cohesive, and it felt a little bit more. I don't know what the word is. Like, I mean, it was her pro debut, and it felt to me like it was a pro debut routine,
Yeah.
right? You know,
I mean,
there's very good amateurs and there's good
watching
pros.
the routines on the live stream, I remember watching, I was just like, yeah, she's got a lot of skills. Like she has a lot of
Hmm.
potential. So I was surprised at the end result. I think the judges, what they saw was a level of difficulty. She had some
Hmm.
height on skills. Like I think there is a lot of potential there. I'm not
We're
sure
gonna have to do another meeting.
in front of another, um,
Hmm.
in front of another panel, it may have scored as high. I think she has a good, there's a good floor pattern there. There's good skills. It's
Yeah.
just the intentionality of the transitions. Like transitions aren't
Hmm.
just, how to get from A to B. It's how are you
Hmm.
intentionally getting from A to B? Like it's like how do you make this look like a skill without doing a skill?
Hmm.
And but I think she definitely has a lot of potential to do really well. I'd
Yeah.
love to see her continue to do a couple more shows and just get the stage time.
Hmm.
Because I think some of that too will iron itself out. When you're watching a
Yeah.
pre-debut, sometimes it's always, a little nerve-wracking. Like it's still nerve-wracking for me. I think I've done 14 pro shows and I get nervous.
I'm nervous just thinking about a show that's in
But
122 days.
and then you were number five.
I was number five.
Lucky number
My
five.
routine was lit. Listen,
Yeah,
everybody.
you killed it. Like, I
That
mean,
was the best I've done that routine.
I've seen you do the routine obviously several times. You've seen the video. I think it was the most intentional I've seen you do it. Like the head
Hmm.
looks, the
Yeah.
music cues, like it's a slower style, so it's not even necessarily like my tempo kind of routine.
Yeah.
But, like I can still watch it and really enjoy it and like appreciate it because of the intentionality, but not just with your skills, but the transitions,
Hmm.
how matching the things to the music, all of the little details that sometimes get missed when you're newer.
Yeah,
Um,
I think that for me was the thing I wanted to focus on this year because obviously my goal was to get to the Olympia, and everybody has good routines. Like everybody has good routines. So it's at this point, it's not just enough to have a good routine. And my routines did well last year. Like, I mean, I won a couple routine rounds, even at shows that I lost. I pretty much stayed in the top two in routines. Like my routines were good, but they were just missing that little bit. And so that was one reason why I wanted to keep the same routine. One, because I like this routine, but I was like, I don't want to keep changing and upgrading it. Like I just want to make sure that my execution is so on point that it's it's something that you're like, wow,
yeah.
that was really good. Because I think a lot of times we don't even realize that we care about execution until we see good execution.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like you don't necessarily really notice that so and so has a little bit bent legs or doesn't have toes pointed or is missing head looks like that until you see it and then you're like, oh, you know what I mean? Like I work with Missy K on all my fine details. And she's like, hey, on your cartwheel, your toe is flexed. I'm like, oh, I literally never saw that until you just said it.
And
Like
then you
I
can't
was just
unsee it.
doing my cartwheel with a flexed toe. Exactly. So that was definitely my personal best. I was super proud of that routine. It felt like a low pressure routine to me, to be honest, because after prejudging, I thought I was too far behind to win.
Yeah.
And I think that almost worked to my advantage because I was just like, look, you're already going to lose. Just go kill all these people in routine. Like, at the very minimum, do a good routine. Like, you're not going to win, but at least like make a statement about how good your routine can be. So yeah, I was really proud of that routine. A couple little bobbles. The feedback was good job. We like the story and the intention and all the things that we've been saying. Um, so yeah, that was a hard routine to top.
Was
That's
Kristen
right.
6?
Five. What's this? Yes, Kristen was six.
Okay. So Kristen, I think, pulled a routine from a couple years ago. Watching the
Mm-hmm.
routine, she is someone too that I just see so much potential in. Like she has all of the skills.
The goods.
And I think for me, my main feedback for her is just like it still is just giving a lot of cheer vibes.
Cheerleader.
So like just repositioning things. And I think she's also someone who she does so many skills that you're missing the moments. Like it's almost like
Mm-hmm.
if I was doing her routine, like for myself, I would be like, okay, I need to pull back at least a couple skills because
Something.
there's no buildup. And like she does
Mm-hmm.
a lot of difficult things that I don't think are fully appreciated because it's
So
not, I'm
fast.
not saying
Yeah.
here as like it's like in the middle, like it's like high energy this whole time. And so there's
Mm-hmm.
no build up to a hard skill. So judges are just like, there's no tempo,
Yeah.
it's so hard to do and execute something that high energy that
Yeah.
long. So I would love to see her pull a couple skills and be a little bit more choreography transition into the buildup of skills. I think
Mm-hmm.
she would finally cross that threshold of just like being able to win routine round. Like she's been, very close at a lot of shows, but that's always the piece. Like when I'm watching it, I'm like, this is effing hard, and I don't know how she's
Yeah.
doing it. And I can
Yeah.
watch it and appreciate it and like take in those skills, but from a judge's perspective, they can't.
It's a lot. Yeah.
They're writing down notes, they're trying to consume everything and judge it, and sometimes just being a little bit more intentional with the buildup of moments, I think
Yeah.
would make the world of difference.
Yeah. It's like the same feedback, like I said, that Tyler gave me at Van Weeder. He's like, you just gotta slow down. Like there's so much happening. And even like I slowed down my music. So it might not even necessarily be taking things out or stopping moments, might just be slowing down music so that you have time to hold something without missing the next beat or whatever it is. I also would love, like you already mentioned, the cheerleader thing. Kristen Pope is a very intense person.
Yeah.
We chit chat backstage, and I'm like, I kind of feel like you need a different vibe of your routine. I think there would be more connection with her routine if she went with a vibe that matched more of her real personality versus her performer personality, right? Like I feel like we kind of all have different personalities. I think if she went with a routine, and actually Missy Truscott mentioned this on her YouTube too. She's like, I want her to go like hardcore. I
Yeah.
feel like that would feel more sincere. And I think she would kind of kill it if
I
she
mean, yeah,
did
I think
more of
I
an
would love to see
intense, like
something.
badass theme.
Yeah, because like I think too, like she is very bubbly and very friendly, and that is her
Mhm.
personality. Like, but how it translates on stage, it comes off very cheerleader.
Yeah,
And then you also see her, and she's like this badass weightlifting chick who has a lot of
right.
tattoos that,
Tattoos.
like,
Yes.
tapping into something a little more hardcore could feel, give off just a different vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to see her just try something a little different. But I mean,
A
I
little
think
different.
in front of different judges, this routine still does very well.
Yeah, I think I expected her to be in the top five. Like I think that I expected I expected the top five to be me, Amber, Anya, Abby, and Kristen. That's who I expected the top five to be. So I think if she just like irons out some of those things, like I said, and has a little bit more of a connection with the crowd, with her, slows down, with her intention, with her actual, again, connection and command, I think that she sees a lot more top three routine rankings.
Yeah, and I think she's been there. Like, she's been the runner-up at this show twice. The first time was a
Mm-hmm.
tie. Um, and so it's like, I think it's just like everyone knows she has what it takes to win a show. It's
Yeah.
just pulling it all together in front of the right panel, for it to happen. It's not an if, it's just a win. I think
Mm-hmm.
in her case, before she will win a show. But just, sometimes you have to try different things and it's uncomfortable. And I've been,
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely think just trying different things because not to sidebar, but I am going to really fast. it's almost like there's certain people that I remember talking about, like I was competing against Stephanie Jones, I think. And I was like, Stephanie Jones has higher highs than I do, but she has lower lows than I do when it comes to rankings.
Hmm.
I was like, I don't really rank as high as Stephanie at my best. You know, Stephanie is someone who could pretty much win most shows.
Hmm.
And I was like, I'm not someone who's coming in winning every show, but I'm consistently a top three, unless Ben Wader, I was fat when I got on stage, whatever. But like, I'm consistently in. Are we in there? Oh, okay. Okay. We got cut off, y'all. We got free Zoom. Okay. So I was saying Stephanie had like more wins than I did,
Yeah.
but she also had like significantly more fifth through seventh.
Yeah.
And I was like consistently not winning, but also, you know, ranking top three. And I feel like Kristen is that. It's like it's landing or it's completely not landing.
Yeah.
Versus,
Like
you
depending
know,
on
I
the
feel like
panel.
exactly depending on the panel, it's very panel specific to how she does. And I feel like if she finds her thing, she's gonna consistently be in that conversation versus randomly being in and randomly being last place, like randomly being second, randomly being seventh. Like I feel like once she finds her groove
Yeah.
of what does work for her, then it's not going to be panel specific. You know what I mean? Like it'll be that will be when she's able to like start
Make that
really
leap.
getting close. Yeah, like really being in the conversation more consistently.
Yeah. And sometimes it's tough too because it's just like when you're a competitor, you want to do something that you really identify with. And I think you always have to find something that you really connect with. But there's been
Hmm.
times where, let me tell you, my ideas got kicked out the door. And it's just part of, I think, like having someone, I think having more than one person, but like someone you trust to kind of give you
Hmm.
insight, or even just like, for me, Whitney has always done my choreography. She's always been my mentor. I go to her with ideas and like I kind of am always just like, but you have veto power. Like someone who loves you enough to be honest, to say like,
Yes.
I want what's best for you. And like this right here, like this isn't working.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that in general, like in our division, it's so important to have someone that you can get feedback from that,
Hmm.
there's a point and a place. Like sometimes you have to see where the plane is landing. What is that? I'm going to land the plane.
Right. I'm
But
gonna
like
land the plane.
when someone's 15
Reagan,
years
no.
old, they really don't probably want to hear about they were off their music or like their toe wasn't pointed kind of thing. They
Right.
want
Yeah.
general feedback of like, do you see where I'm going kind of thing versus
Yes.
like, when you're starting to get a little bit closer and you're like, okay, the details are
I
starting
need the details. Yeah.
matter. I think just having
Yep.
someone to go to in general with your routine who's in our division or been in our division is just so helpful.
Hmm. Don't don't mind
Whether
me. I'm just feeding my daughter dinner.
whether they're competing still or not.
Yeah.
But yeah. So then Amber.
I think Amber was next.
So
Yes.
Amber did the same. I mean, I'm not going to say it's the exact same as the one, but she was doing the same
But her Arnold
theme
routine. Yeah.
music from the Arnold.
Arnold. Hmm.
Has just excellent execution. Everything is very
Hmm.
pretty. Even though she has a cheer background, it still gives dancer. It doesn't necessarily give
Yeah, I
cheer.
agree.
Uh, you know, she has a fun, smiley
Energy. I was gonna
vibe.
say she
And
has
that's
a
just
bubbly energy
yeah,
on
and
stage.
that's
I feel like
just
you're just
her
like,
personality. I think my
hmm.
only like it's a different style for me. Like I like the high energy. I always connect with that. The dancer style for me is what I mean is like different for me. They're always just very easy to watch.
Hmm.
I think the only thing for me that I would give feedback on is there's just sometimes there's long combinations where she's doing a lot of handstand work that she started
Right.
doing that sometimes you don't get the eye
You're
contact.
missing the eye contact. Yes.
But then I, saw her routine at Adela and the eye contact was so much better. And I can't even pinpoint what she changed. Like I think she was still doing just as much handstand work, but I think it
Yeah.
really put her, from, I mean, different panels too, but from fourth to first, um,
Right.
it just was a lot more like watching the routine, even just on Instagram. I'm like, oh, she's performing for me. kind of.
Yes, I was gonna say, I feel like just the difference between Adela and Legion was at Legion, it almost just felt like maybe it was like her first run of that routine. But I feel like not necessarily a first run as far as execution goes, but a first run as far as like I'm just making sure I do the skills. But then you get more confident and you can then perform. I feel like at Adela, she was performing, and at
Yeah.
Legion, she was running skills.
Yes. I mean, it was
So
still
I
a
do think that was the
beautiful
difference.
routine.
Yeah.
There was just like
Mhm.
there was just like something missing and I couldn't
Yeah.
pinpoint it.
Yeah. I feel like it, yeah, I agree. It was just like, it was good and it was clean, but it also felt like almost like she was doing it at practice. Like, okay, I'm doing the skills and I want to hit the skills well, but I don't have a crowd here and I'm
Yeah.
not performing to a crowd versus, like I said, Adela, she was on and she had her family and friends there. And I think there was just like a different level of connection to the crowd. Because she was on at Adela. So,
Yeah.
which
I
we'll
think
talk about
too,
with
it's your hometown.
the
You have a lot of people there to support
Mhm.
you. Like they're there to watch you and like that makes it fun.
Makes it exactly. It's a more sincere performance, even. Um,
And then there
and then who's
was
after
Courtney.
Amber? Courtney, first time fitness competitor.
Yes, yes, yes.
Crazy town first show. Um, it was just, I mean, it was a lot with the makeup. She's received this feedback, so I'm not talking shit about her. I think it was when I mentioned it earlier, but it was like I feel like Courtney looked at fitness and she wants to go to the Olympia. She's mentioned this, she's been very vocal about this, and I think she tried to fit every single possible thing in.
Yeah.
Um, versus just figuring out what were the things that needed to be in this routine and could be executed with perfection. Um, and then working the routine around those. I think, it was just a lot and it felt like a lot. And I think she's just getting her bearings in fitness, which I mean, fitness is hard, you guys. If you don't watch
Yeah.
fitness, shout out for you watching our podcast. But it's just a lot. And I think she was swinging for the fences.
Yeah, and
And
I think there's nothing wrong with that. It's a learning opportunity.
yeah.
Like, I think she's someone who, even though she's kind of making a change later, like she has a good physique. It reminds
Hmm.
me a lot. I've said this to a few people. It reminds me a lot of Jenny Worth.
Yes, definitely
Um,
Jenny Wood.
I think she has potential. It's just, I think in front of some panels, her physique is a little bit bigger and harder next to girls on a qualifying
Hmm.
stage that she may be rewarded and sometimes she may not. So I think it's just good to know that going in because
Yeah,
you don't look like the mainstream of the division.
right. And
And
especially if everybody is, well, most of us are, we're looking at if we look at the highest level, especially, we have people like you, we have people like Shelly that are giving like shape, shape, shape. I mean, I've sent this to you before. My first Olympia in 2022. Was that your first Olympia?
yeah,
Your first Olympia. You were a nobody. And when I got feedback, Sandy sent me your photo and said, "This is what I want you to be." That was years ago. You know what I mean? And so I think that's also a thing that they're trying to emphasize in our division. So yes, she is definitely muscular and hard and conditioning, but I think probably for her, the shape is she's gonna have to figure out the shape, build up the lats. But I mean routine wise, because ultimately
that's
you
the
can win a show in fitness without winning prejudging.
yeah, you can be in the
But
middle of the
it's
pack and win.
hard. It's hard to win a show in fitness without winning routine.
Yes.
So
I
I
have done
think she just needs to, yeah, I mean, Amber just did it last week. Um, Jacqueline did it at
I
the UK
think,
Arnold
and two, she has a lot of good skills. I think it's just picking your
skills.
best skills. And then
Yeah.
as far as a performance go, I think, as a new competitor, she wanted to go so far into the character that she didn't really feel like she was performing. But a lot of judges, they don't like the full face makeup, the wig. Like it's still supposed to be like feminine, like
You,
pretty.
yeah.
I don't want
Hmm.
to say like sex sells, like we're not all up there being like dancers and being sexy, but
Right, yeah.
you want to look cute
So
and like
want some, yeah.
um just a little bit of that. And then I think like she could still, the routines, themes still go very well, and it doesn't have to be super
Hmm.
high paced. But just finding where she can find that middle ground of like,
Hmm.
she can still perform, but she can still do all of her skills.
Yeah, I agree. Just like ton of good skills. But again, I feel like the crowd was, I think she got feedback of just, feedback on the distraction of, I mean, I lost the streamers because the judge said me the streamers were distracting. I'm like,
Yeah.
I have these streamers for 2.5 seconds. So
And
I mean, think full
well,
face
too,
makeup,
it's
wig,
just
costume, like,
you never know how it's going to be received or if people are even going
hmm
to get themes. And that's where sometimes I always
hmm
tell people if you're going to do a theme, make sure it's very transferable. Like you can't use a
yes, it has
prop.
to be palatable.
Or like if you're going to do a theme and like it's super specific, like the prop, you need to pick a prop that if someone hasn't watched this TV show, it would
They
still
would
make
get
sense to
it.
them.
Hmm.
Like they might not
Yeah.
get the theme, but it's the performance still makes sense.
Yeah.
So you have to think if no one knows what your theme is, does the performance still make sense?
Still makes sense. Yeah,
And is it
that's a
still
good.
fun to watch? Because
Hmm.
people, you'd be surprised. There's people who've never seen Rocky movies or like never
That's
seen Flashdance or, I'm just thinking of
yeah,
like certain routines people do
themes.
that it's
Yeah.
like, does this still make sense?
Right. Like, can I still understand it and be entertained by it
Yeah.
while
So
I'm
I think
watching it?
that
Yeah.
was for her, it's just going to take a little practice, but she has a good physique. She has a good foundation. She has great
Hmm.
skills. Hopefully she'll be able to compete in a few more shows.
Yeah. Definitely another one
Mhm.
that probably just also needs to get eyes on it from someone who's experienced in
Yeah.
fitness. I mean, she actually sent me her routine before Legion, and said, can you give me some feedback on this? Um, and so I helped her with like some transitions and stuff. But yeah, I think just getting more eyes on it from fitness people or feedback from a couple fitness people that she trusts, I think, yeah, she definitely has big potential because the skills are the skills. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
putting it all together is,
Most
just the
people
next
at our
step for
age
her.
aren't going to learn to do a full.
Truly, exactly. Like
I mean, I'm not.
there's a lot of skill, exactly, but there's a lot of skills in her routine that I'm like, yeah, I'm never going to do that. So she has
Um,
that advantage.
Annalise,
Last, Annalise.
ugh,
I loved her
so
routine. I'm not
sweet.
gonna lie. I loved her routine. I did think it slowed down a little at the end,
Hmm.
but I do feel like that was a theme that I wasn't super duper familiar. I think it was Matrix, right? Like
I think,
I
yeah.
haven't watched Matrix in 2 decades, but I got it.
Yeah.
Like I still understood the assignment, which kudos to her for that. But I do think it just like kind of slowed down at the end. It was for me, a very strong start. And then it was like, okay,
Yeah.
okay. Now
And I
I
think
feel
too,
like it
it's been
lacked
a
a little
little bit
punch
of
at the end.
time since she's competed. So I think when I sent you my top five, I had Annalise. Like she
Hmm.
was to me, like
Hi.
I thought she
Yeah.
was gonna be in that top five. Um,
Hmm.
So I think she has a beautiful routine. I love
Oh.
watching her, presentation and she does some different skills that I think, she lives in Australia, so I know
Hmm.
fitness isn't as prevalent over there. So thankfully she's been able to come over and compete this year and she was able to do a Della
Hmm.
and I think she's going to jump into Alabama. But just getting back up on stage and feeling comfortable again, I think she looked fun, like the routine was good. I enjoy
Yeah.
watching it. It's just a little bit more of that, like I think you just kind of it did slow down a little bit, the excitement, and just kind of like you take the
Hmm.
ring rust off and get comfortable again. And
I agree. Yeah, I
I
agree.
think each
She
time she competes this year is just going to be better and better.
100%. Yeah, I mean, it was already better at Adela. So yeah, I think just Rust, she hasn't competed in years. I think she hasn't competed since like Chicago Pro several years ago.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think just more time, more reps will give her that kind of command
Hmm.
on stage. Like I said, I think she started with it, but maybe just it just kind of slowed down at the end for me. But I really liked her routine just in general. I was like not judging, just like watching. I was like, oh, that was fun. Like that
Yeah.
was really good.
And I think just like like all the routines had good potential. Like some of them, yes, were more polished or more practiced than others, but they all had so much good potential in the sense of like even the routines that didn't score as well, it's like it's not because you didn't have good skills. It's
Right.
I think it is a preference thing. Like what do judges prefer? I think we a lot of the times are the same and the things that we prefer of like a little,
Right.
most of the time it's like high energy, good transitions, like enough skills, but something that's maybe a
Hmm.
little different, but just very fluid and nothing that feels choppy. And, sometimes I've seen girls,
Hmm.
still win a routine round and it's, maybe a little, I don't want to say choppy, but it's just packed with skills and maybe
A
not as
little bit
much
more clunky.
performing.
Yeah. Hmm.
But
Yeah.
overall, I enjoyed watching the show. I think as we came to results, you were backstage and you texted me who the top five was. And I was just like,
Hmm.
no, this isn't what I expected. But like, it's not
Yeah.
like I could see how, just because I got to A to B doesn't mean a judge didn't go from B to C.
Right.
It had a
Yeah.
different outlook on the results. I think for me, I think I wasn't surprised that you won. I was super happy. Obviously, like you're one of my best friends. I was more surprised, I think, that Amber was fourth and like that
Hmm.
Kristen wasn't in the top five.
In the top.
I think those were my biggest surprises because I think on any given day you
Yeah.
can make an argument for anyone's routine to be
Right. Yeah.
placed in a certain position. I know as a consumer what I
Hmm.
like to watch, and I agreed, with you being first place routine, but anyone else, I could have,
Would have. Yeah.
I had you and Anya were my two favorite routines of that show. And then after that, like I could really make an argument for anyone being third in routine and anyone being
Hmm.
fourth in routine from a specific standpoint. I know where I thought, but
Right.
I think especially just when it comes to the sport, it's so subjective and like you're literally signing up to get judged for someone's opinion based on the
Opinion. Right.
criteria.
Yeah.
And the criteria for
Yeah.
fitness is vague, so
It's
it's not
so
always going to
vague.
be what we think it should be.
Yeah.
I had two different people in the top five. So like what I thought and what the judges thought were only 60% correct.
Right. Yeah. Well, and that's what I was saying. Like, I think I would have had Amber in third probably. Um, and then yeah, I would have had Kristen in the top five with Abby there. But that's why I was so surprised when I saw Amber in fourth. I was like, SOS, like, am I gonna win or not? Like, I think
Yeah.
I'm gonna get last place. But yeah, it is very subjective, which is why it's super important to also get feedback, but also take feedback with a grain of salt, depending on how it works for your routine, right?
Yeah.
So, if you're a competitor watching this, always get feedback, but you don't always have to apply specific feedback exactly the way, that the judges word it. For instance, I know that
Like
one
I think a
competitor
good example of
said,
this again is just like a lot of the times they'll say higher level of difficulty, higher level of difficulty. It
right.
doesn't mean to add more skills.
Hmm.
It means to either work on a progression from a current skill, if you're doing maybe one back handspring maybe to a series, it's like showing that progression.
You say,
It's not let's add on, like it's not a game of add
right.
on.
Yeah.
um
Right. Yeah.
so
More is
I
not always
think
better.
that's
You say.
for me what I interpret is okay, I need to show a progression of skills I'm currently
Hmm.
doing, or I need to, when I'm picking and choosing the skills in my routine, I need to pick more difficult ones because sometimes you put an easier skill in because you're trying to get another skill. Like I haven't always
Right.
in previous years done all of my tumbling in the sense of like my hardest tumbling pass and my hardest standing pass. And for me,
Hmm.
when I'm trying to now increase my level of difficulty, I'm looking at doing both of those things. Okay, I'm going to do my hardest standing
Right.
pass and my hardest running pass because those are higher level of difficulty. And
Right.
that's kind of along the same lines as like taking it with a grain of salt, figuring out how to interpret it for yourself and not,
Hmm.
you know, interpret it of like, oh, I just need to add more, add
I
more.
have to do this exact thing. Yeah. I mean, even after the Arnold, Sandy told me, I think you should start with your running tumbling pass. It's more exciting. But like, if you've watched my routine, that would not make any sense for the musicality of my routine. But after Emerald Cup and the feedback that I got there, it was like, okay, I don't need to start with my tumbling pass, but I do need to start with something better.
Yeah.
Sandy told me start with your tumbling pass. I'm not going to start with my tumbling pass, but what you really are telling me is that the beginning of your routine is a little meh, and I need more from you.
Yeah.
So that's how I interpreted that feedback, right? So there's going to be feedback. Like I think one of the competitors, they were told like, do more tumbling, like a full. I'm like a full, sir, do you know how hard that is? But it's like, okay, you're not going to do a full, but basically they're saying like, we want to see maybe more power or something that feels like a big moment in your routine. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it doesn't always have to be exactly what the judges say, but in general, if you can take it and apply it with a, with a broad stroke to your routine, then generally it's going to be well received across the board. I didn't need to start with my tumbling, but I did improve my opening, which helped me across the board. Right. So just figuring out those where to apply feedback appropriately to your routine is going to help a lot of people. I think in general, everybody in this division needs to focus more on their routine.
Yeah.
Focus on your routine. Get your cardio in, get your lifts in, but routine is king. If you're trying to rank well and do well, you got to be able to win
And
it.
like I've even told you this, like this routine that I'm doing this year, yes, I have, I think, an increased level of difficulty from last year, but it feels more even. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting to the point in my competitive career where it's not more skills, it's less is more, and everything is perfect, and you are performing it to
Yes.
the musicality. You're
Mm-hmm.
intentional with your transitions, the head looks, the skills are built in, and then the transitions look like skills. Um,
Yes.
Getting to that point is it's a long run, and it's just like,
Yeah.
okay, like I've taken the feedback, but like I also have taken that feedback to a mentor and say, help me interpret
So
this
I do this.
versus like more strength holds. Okay, well,
What does that mean?
what does
Right.
that mean?
What is-
What does that
Right.
mean?
Like
And
it's
how
not
can
just doing
we,
another handstand.
yeah.
Like you got
Um,
to play Tetris with all
yes,
this stuff.
with all of your skill set and like what you
Yeah.
can actually do and what you can actually execute. Because yeah, certain judges want
Yes.
to do certain things. Like I think anything can kind of get trendy. Like I think the
Mm-hmm.
flavor of this year or the past couple of years is hand balancing. That's not always been what's popular. And I don't think it's always going to be what's popular. Like a couple of
Yeah.
years before that, it was the running tumbling passes. Like Missy's
Mm-hmm.
started to get really explosive and like Ariel started tumbling more, Jacqueline started tumbling more, Whitney started tumbling more. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just like it goes in a certain direction, but it doesn't always stay there.
Yeah.
So it's finding how to tap into what's popular without abandoning your style, your
Yourself.
routine, your skill set.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hard agree. Hard agree. Legion Sports Fest 2025.
Here with your 2024 and 2025
25
champion.
champions. Let
That's
me look at
wild.
my trophy. That is wild.
Yes. So now we're coming up on it is Olympia is 17 and a half weeks.
Yep. 122 days. You know, I got to count down on my phone.
Girl.
122 days.
So I think we
That's
are going
crazy.
to try to do this after every show, clearly, because we have a lot of them.
Yes. Yes.
Maybe they'll get a little more
Yeah.
succinct.
They will listen. I'm going to get on ChatGPT. We're going to get a little bit of a template and then we're going to go. But I kind of like the conversation style.
Yeah,
But
I think it
yeah,
makes it
we're
fun.
not going to let it be 2 hours long. This was also a lot of competitors. I mean, you
Yeah.
can't, I mean,
And I
unless
think
we're
too,
going to not
like,
talk about certain people.
yes, yes. And I think just with routines in general, like,
Hmm.
I think it's just good to kind of dissect and spend time like,
Hmm.
and this is just my opinion as a competitor, and these are the things that I like. It's
Hmm.
not law. It's not
Right.
fact.
Yeah.
It's an opinion.
Yeah. Opinions. And then, like I said, I mean, maybe some stuff we've heard with feedback. Like, I mean, I was standing there when Abby got her feedback and when, so like, there's also some stuff where it's like, okay, this is my opinion, but this is also what I know a judge has said. So kind of trying to marry all of them so we can all learn and get better together. We are not going to do Adela in this episode.
No.
Already past our free trial on Zoom. But we are what, 2 weeks out, less than 2 weeks out from Body B1, Alabama,
So
where we
hopefully
will
we'll
get,
be able to at least just get this and Adele up
yeah,
before Body View 1.
yes, we will. We absolutely will. I will edit tomorrow. I think that's it. Do we have anything else? We don't have a sign off. We'll see you next week or whenever. Next time on the final call out. I love that, Brett.